Hello, everybody. Thank you, Clyde, for your kind invitation to share with you the summary of my dissertation that I have just completed at the University of Ottawa, entitled The Challenge of News Translation from English into Mandinka in Gambia, Colonial Legacies of Translation Practices and Processes. Well, news translation has always been important in the Gambia because at least half of the Gambian population relies on the news translated from English, the colonial language, into indigenous languages, including Mandinka. And I chose Mandinka because it is the language spoken at least by 40% of the Gambian population, and I stand to be corrected. My main objectives of conducting this research are to provide an insightful and comprehensive analysis of the evolution of news translation practices and processes over time in the Gambia, as well as the overall linguistic situation in the country within an indigenous context, particularly Mandinka, and also to explore the history of broadcasting and Mandinka news translation in the Gambia. And finally, I wanted this research to serve as a reference for any future research into news translation, because my understanding that no research has ever been done in news translation in the Gambia, as attested by my participants. News translation is a relatively new field within the domain of translation studies. That is because normally, typically, translation, even though it is pervasive throughout the news production, it is subtle. It is mostly invisible. So that's why there hasn't been that much of research into it. But I can say that over the past 30 years, there has been growing research in news translation, and still there is a gap, because in my literature review I found that there isn't that much of research done into side translation, which is how news is translated in the Gambia mostly, because side translation is the oral rendition or translation of a written text. So a news translator would holds, a newspaper and translate it, into Mandinka, Wolof, Jola. So that's why, it is important for future researchers to also, focus on side translation. Regarding the methodology, so as part of my research into news translation in the Gambia, I conducted a qualitative, descriptive study where I obtained data through participant interviews and direct observation in order to assess the process of news translation in the Gambia. And during this study, I arranged site visits to a couple of news outlets, media outlets in the Gambia, including King FM, Radio Gambia, Paradise Radio and TV, and DHK Radio. I have made a lot of findings, and basically, recruitment of news translators in the Gambia. So I found that there are no, standard criteria. The most important criterion for somebody to be hired or recruited as a news translator is to be fluent in the target language. In this case, in Mandinka. Um, Most of news translators speak multiple languages, at least three. Some of them, I found maybe two news translators who speak at least five languages. And also, I found that there is no formal training in hiring people to become news translators. They don't go through any formal training, and I found that maybe 9 out of 12 news translators have just completed high school, and they got hired as news translators. What motivates them into this profession? Mostly they say that they are keen to keep the largely illiterate population of the Gambia informed about current affairs in the country and the world around them. Some say that they have discovered that veteran translators are aging, so they need to step in order to keep the momentum. And some say that they got inspired by veteran news translators like Sergio Barrow, and Musa Mane, Keba Kamara, Fali Fadera, Regarding the process of news translation in the Gambia, in privately owned media outlets, they just basically they review, the leading newspapers, including Standard, The Point, Fourier, and also The Voice newspaper, and they hold the newspaper and pick certain important stories and translate them into Mandinka. And in state-owned media outlet GRTS, Gambia Radio and Television Services, they have news editors who prepare the news, the news script, and then they hand it to the news translator to translate it. Well, the main issue of this thesis is to examine the challenges, that news translators face in the Gambia, and I classify these challenges into two: professional and technical. So professionally, they find they face issues, of low wages, because in the Gambia, the study found that they earn, some of them earn as little as like $40 or $30, so that is an issue, and some of them get harassed, because what some people don't know is that these people are just news translators. They are not the news makers, So when, for example, they translate a piece of news that is critical of government, so the government proponents will come after them and verbally attack them, and they get assaulted, and they don't even know that this is not the news they have made. They make. They just translate it. So they are just messengers if you like. And also, in addition, they face technical difficulties. Including difficult terms. We know that our native languages are somehow underdeveloped. So when they come across legal terms, medical terms, certain term. Also issues like in the Gambia, there are certain issues which are considered taboos, you know. So how do you go about translating those terms, you know, expressions, you know? Despite all these challenges, you know, they also adapt strategies, you know, of translation strategies like using dictionaries, you know, asking others who are more experienced, translating by borrowing, you know, paraphrasing, and sometimes in some cases, you know, they just, you know, literally translate. Well, I think this research is of great significance because no prior studies have explored news translation practices in the Gambia, and also I think it will it will you know, trigger, you know, discussion and debate and dialogue about how we can empower our native languages like Mandinka. Why can't we do it the other way around? You know, translating news from Mandinka into English, not from English into Mandinka. So again, you know, I think this is up to discussion. So in conclusion, I should admit that, you know, this research only scratches the surface of news translation in the Gambia. There are a lot of issues that could be explored, like for example, this research is focused on Mandinka, but why don't we have like also researches, you know, done, you know, to explore the news translation practices, processes from English into other languages like Wolof, you know, Jola, you know, Sarakule. So at the end, I have made a set of recommendations, you know, including the planning and developing our, you know, native languages, you know. Why can't we have like an academy, you know, whereby we bring together, you know, experts, you know, language experts, you know, why can't we coin new words, you know, in order to tackle this issue of, you know, dealing with, you know, jargons, you know, terms, technical terms that are perceived to be untranslatable, you know. So I have a very limited time, so I will just stop here, and I keenly look forward to your comments, you know, to criticisms, you know, because I can see that there is still room for improvement, and thank you very much for your kind attention.